Welcome to the Resist Average Academy, your source for inspiring stories, lessons, and action steps designed to level up every area of your life. Here's your host, Tommy Baker.
Resist Average Nation, welcome back to another full-length episode of the Academy. If you're ready to create momentum, to create results, to create the growth in life and business, you've come to the right place. I'm your host, Tommy Baker, and I just want to say thank you. We have been on a tear at the Academy. If you haven't been listening to the recent episodes, make sure you go back, you check those out, and also the quick hits. And if you're new here, we do 2 episodes a week. We do a full-length interview with some of the world's best. And by the way, if you guys ever have a guest that you feel would be a perfect fit, aligned value fit for the Academy, send them over. And then we also do the quick hit shows, which are about 10, 15, sometimes 18, 20-minute shows, much more specific, where I'm going to go on and teach you about a certain perspective, mindset, and always going to end with something practical that's going to help you in your life, your business, your performance, to help you create clarity, growth, and results. And that is what we're here for. And so often, as part of our journey, we get introduced to mentors and at the right times, at the right places, in the right seasons of our life. And if I look back at my life, it's so funny to look at some of the mentors that have been introduced to me just through exploring passion and interests. So for example, when I started in the fitness industry, one of my mentors was Paul Chek. He was recently on the show as well. And that led me to another mentor, which his name is James Fitzgerald, who won the CrossFit Games in 2008, I believe, when I was deep in my fitness journey. And then he led me to another mentor, which was Dr. John Demartini. And then the cycle just goes on like that. So if you ever feel pulled towards something or someone or a message, I want you to really take it seriously, because you never know what that door can open, and the door behind that, and the door behind that, and the door behind that. Now, I gave you all of that to say that my next guest is Dr. John Demartini. He is considered one of the world's biggest authorities on growth, success, personal transformation. He was featured on the movie The Secret, which blew up, of course. But this guy is incredible, and I consider him a mentor. He's one of my original mentors early on. I've been to countless of his events, and just someone that radically changed my life. And I know a lot of times we throw those cliches around, but it's absolutely true. And so he's back for a second time. He came on the Academy about 2.5 years ago when we were just starting out, and he's back again to give you the clarity, the inspiration, and really get you clear. And on this episode, you're going to learn about how to structure your priorities in your life so you're consistently moving the needle forward. Because if we don't have priorities in our lives, what happens? Distraction. We get lost, paralysis analysis, excuses, and we lose momentum. So Academy Nation, welcome Dr. John Demartini back to the show. Resist Average Nation, welcome back to another full-length episode of the Academy. And as I said in the intro, very excited to have Dr. John Demartini. He is back on the Academy, came on, I believe, about 2.5 years ago. So welcome back to the Academy, Dr. John Demartini.
Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you. And I want to dive right back in. And today, really, when I was thinking about the theme of this episode, a lot of people don't remember the goals that they set out at the start of 2019. They've gotten lost in maybe doubt, fear, and uncertainty. And I want to make this the episode. That's my intention coming into this the conversation that lights something inside of them, in their heart, in their mind, in their spirit, for them to really tap into who they really are and finish this year, the back half of 2019 as we go into 2020 on fire. So that's the intention that we're setting. So Dr. Demartini, why so often can we get excited and ambitious about goals and visions and wake up 6 months later with nothing to show for it?
That's a great question. I can't state when I make this general statement that every human being that I'm about to discuss is doing exactly what I'm about to say, but I have seen patterns in people. So often, people are influenced by outer circumstances and outer people, and they subordinate and infiltrate into their mind ideas that are skewed by other people's accomplishments instead of looking within. And they taint the clarity of what their calling is, what really inspires them, with sometimes momentarily dopamine fixes of a fantasy of what I could do and should do according to other people. And many times what they're setting is not really a true objective. They're setting something that appears to be a goal that has a bit of a fantasy in it, a bit of an unrealistic expectation. Every individual, as I've stated before on here, that lives by a set of priorities, a set of real values, and whatever's highest on their value, whatever's really most important to them, they spontaneously act from within. They don't get distracted from it. And setting a goal that is aligned and congruent with what they truly value, what their life truly demonstrates spontaneously, that nobody has to remind them, motivate them, or incentivize them to get them to do it, and structure goals-objectives that are truly balanced with a strategically foresighted view that thinks of all the problems and obstacles and solves them in advance with a plan. Those individuals, if they break them down into small enough bites and then structure daily actions to get them, they get it. It's the people that go off on a fantasy, immediate gratifying fantasy, grandiose, set goals that are too big, don't break them down into small enough bites. They're not really aligned with what they value most. They're neat things that they've seen from other people, and they try to mimic other people. Those are the ones that usually faint away and wane as days go on. The thing that you're committed to that nobody ever has to remind you to do is the key. In my case, I love teaching and as you know, learning. I'm going on 47 years of doing that. So November will be 47 years. I can tell you that I don't need any outside motivation to do what I love doing, which is researching and teaching and traveling and teaching. So when you find that calling, that real honed in thing, and you structure things that are congruent and aligned with that, you build momentum incrementally instead of running into resistance by setting up fantasies and then having your intuition bring up doubts and insecurities and distractions. Distractions are symptoms of not setting goals that are really focused, that are highest priority.
It's so true. And I love what you said there about the clarity being tainted, the clarity that we have inside, because as I'm sure you get a lot of, people will come to me and say, Tommy, I don't have clarity around this. I don't have clarity around that. And if we get them in the right environment and the right mindset in the right place, we can achieve clarity on the spot. It's just that there's a lot of stuff that's been, piled on the clarity.
I always say that if you walk down in a mall, and you see one person that you think, wow, they, I think, are more successful than me. And another person, oh, that person's more intelligent to me. That person over there has got more wealth than I do. That person over there has got a more stable and more attractive spouse than I do in relationship. That person over there has got more social influence. That person over there is more physically fit. That person over there is more inspired and spiritually aware. The moment you compare yourself to other people, you automatically, instead of comparing your daily actions to your own highest values, which is really what counts, you will subordinate to them, minimize yourself, live in their shadow, inject some of their values and ideas that you imagine them to be doing, scatter yourself, and cloud the clarity of your own highest value and calling, your métier. And what it'll do is it'll distract you, and the impulses and instincts that occur from that distract you from your real presence. The same thing if you walk in a mall and you look down on people. So anytime you minimize yourself to people, you'll tend to inject their values, and you'll tend to change you, to live in their values. Just like if you meet this amazing girl, right, or guy, and you're infatuated, you'll temporarily sacrifice things that are most important to you to be with them for fear of loss of them. And this is on a subtle level, not necessarily an infatuated thing like you see in a relationship, but it's a subtle version of it. And we'll just inject all these things and try to be somebody we're not. Envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. The magnificence of who you are is far greater than any fantasies you'll inject from other people. And nobody gets up in the morning and dedicates their life to your fulfillment So anytime you let the world on the outside dictate that, and stop the vision on the inside from directing that, you automatically hold yourself in a tainted and skewed, distorted, subjectively biased perspective on life. And that's where you lose your power. So we're not here to put people on pedestals. We're not here to put people in pits. We're here to put them in hearts and to just stay focused on what's really priority in our own values. And therefore identifying what we really value and setting sail as captain of the ship, master of our fate, in that highest value is the most significant thing a person can do to master momentum building achievements.
I love it. And part of that requires looking within. So it requires the awareness and doing some of that inner work. It also requires getting honest. I mean, I've seen you break people down who said, hey, I have no idea what I want to do. And 10 minutes later, they're emotional and they've for the first time declared the thing that they really want to do. But there's a benefit to not doing that, right? There's a protective mechanism that if I keep saying I need clarity or I need to do this or go to more seminars and courses to figure it out, but deep down I really know that's a vulnerable place to be in once I declare that to myself and somebody else, because now I'm on the hook. Now I know my calling and I'm being honest, and part of me is responsible. I'm accountable to myself now, right?
Yes. Well, thousands of years ago, when man was potentially nomadic, he probably had anxieties trying to survive out there by himself. Imagine a man, a woman, and a child out in the middle of nowhere. So he ended up yearning to integrate with other people, because then various specialties could give competitive advantage. And he ended up wanting to fit in instead of stand out. And so as time and society emerged, and sedentary life and division of labor, we became more and more dependent on other people. And so we have now have a kind of an internal conflict between trying to fit in and stand out. The people that have made the difference in the world are the people that are willing to stand out and have original ideas that contribute to the world. And they're willing to go after and pursue challenges that inspire them instead of shrink from them. But the majority of people are wanting to fit in and conform and collectively achieve. And in the process of doing it, they're afraid to stand out. And so they're worried about what people think. And they're worried about the people's opinions instead of just declaring what it is they'd love to do and allowing themselves to get resistance, opposition, challenge, maybe violent opposition, yes, in order to pursue something that makes a difference. But the people who have ever made a difference, the Galileos, the Copernicus, the Giordano Brunos, the great minds, the great leaders, we could look at Nelson Mandela, we could look at Gandhi, anybody that's done anything that's left a mark in the world, which we all yearn to make a difference. It's through standing out and resisting subordination. Albert Einstein said, my contempt for outer authority is what made me the inner authority. Love and that. That's a very important component to face. But you won't have that confidence if you don't define what's really, truly, spontaneously inspiring from within to do, and to set sail on that, and to prioritize on a daily basis everything to highest priority actions and delegate all low priority actions. You cannot live an inspired life unless we delegate. And delegation was purposely set up to make sure that we helped grow the economy, grow the society, and give specialties their power, but not as a subordination, but as a leadership role to automatically delegate to the things that are not inspiring to us. Even marriage is a form of delegation. You find somebody with a different set of values, they do the things that is not inspiring to you to get things done, and you do things that are not inspiring to them, and you get things done, and you enhance each other's experience. So prioritizing what you do and delegating the things that are lower in the value raises your power and confidence to create original ideas that serve humanity and allow you to be yourself. And you being yourself is the most profound thing you can do. That's the word heart. The word courage means heart. And the person who has the courage to live heartfully, congruently with what their highest value is the real courage. Walking on coals and jumping bungee jumps and everything else are trivial compared to being yourself.
Agreed. That's the most courageous step that we can take, and I believe that's where we all are destined to be if we're willing to face that. You talked about the resistance, you talked about the adversity, about the challenge. So often people look at the adversity, the challenge, the critic, their relative, their lost long uncle or third cousin that says, oh, that's never going to work, or that's a terrible idea, or you need to go back to medical school and get that job. And they get inspired, they see that first sign of resistance, and they use that as proof of confirmation that it's not possible, it's not the right time, it's not the right economy, we got to wait till Trump is out of office. All the excuses start to become real. So what you're saying is, look at the moment that you declare or you get honest and you start to make steps towards the calling, the vision, you're going to experience resistance. And what you're saying is that resistance is actually a great thing.
Well, everybody has their own set of values, and they are going to project their values onto you to help them fulfill what they value. And so you have a full spectrum of values out there, and there's going to be people that are supporters and challengers. If you see a challenger, look for the supporter. It's there. If you see a supporter, look for a challenger. They're always there. They're always synchronously there to make sure that you're authentic. You see, if you get supporters, you'll tend to sacrifice you for them. If you get challengers, you tend to want to sacrifice them for you. If you see both of them, you'll get to go off on your mission and fulfill your mission, making a difference in serving other people. When we set goals that are in line with our highest values, we actually look forward to pursuing challenges that inspire us. I use an example of the boy who loves video games. If he's doing what he really loves to do, he will immediately conquer the game and want to go and get a more advanced game. He's not wanting to shrink from challenge. He wants to tackle a more advanced game, a more challenging game. That's because he's doing something he really loves to do, is video games. But if he's doing his chores and homework, he doesn't get up in the morning and say, hey, Mom, give me more homework and give me a bigger chore to do at home, because that's not what inspires him. So people who are doing something that are truly congruent with what they value are actually looking forward to the challenge and love the challenge and the criticisms, because they love to show that if they continually do it, the very people that challenge you are the people that support you later. I've proven that in my own career. Some of the people that slit my tires and got on my case and wrapped my house when I made the top grades in school when I was younger are now students of mine. So that, I watched the opposition turn into opportunity. And I think that's what opposition really means, is opportunity to declare what's true for you and have the courage to make the difference in the world. You won't make a difference fitting in.
Yeah, and it's amazing that, and I've experienced that too. People that come around that once said what I was doing made no sense, and it wasn't the right time, and it was thinking too big, and initially they might have been opposition, but as you said, we all want to be surrounded. We're all attracted to somebody and people who have clarity on mission and have the courage to move towards it. That's why people watch sports. That's why people watch famous artists, stuff like that. And so even if we don't agree with everything that they're doing, we want to be around that energy because it sparks something inside of us that has that same desire.
You said it perfectly. It's well said, because there's a yearning for authenticity, a calling within our brain-mind to do that. And so anytime we see somebody that's given themselves permission to do that and exemplifying that, which is the greatest teacher, our chameleon mimicking, might say, mirror neurons are automatically yearning to want to be around that, to give us the greatest opportunity and probability of achieving that. So by us taking actions and exemplifying an inspired life that's authentic and that's original, it's unique, and contributing, we give permission, like a fire, in a forest, we give permission for other trees to become on fire. And I don't mean that in a destructive way, but in a conflagration of society's expansion of possibilities for them going by giving permission to do it. Anybody that watches a movie, for instance, of an individual that overcame amazing odds and obstacles and challenges and it conquered and achieved, it brings a tear of inspiration to our eyes. And that's because we know that that's what we're here to do. And that's why it inspires us. And it's a guide and a feedback to make sure we're living authentically and by priority, because we know that that's what we're capable of doing, and that's what we're here for.
It's so true, and I love that. Now, you mentioned, comparison. You mentioned comparing ourselves to others. Either we're better than others or below others. These days, we have so much access to comparison through social media, through nonstop stimulus. This can be extremely challenging. So how do we make sure that we don't get drawn to the noise and we stay centered on our mission long enough for the results to come without being pulled by the lure of social media, by the nonstop breaking news? I mean, the stimulus is endless today, and it's never been more of a challenge.
Well, if you don't fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you, it's easy to be distracted by low priority actions that don't. So, first of all, I'm going to develop something here, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
If you're an animal in the wild and you have a natural prey that you eat and predator that eats you, you tend to err on a false positive side for the sake of safety and survival. So in other words, if you see a predator there, it's better to have an assumption that there's one there and be false positive, assuming it's there even if it's not, in case it comes to eat you. The same thing for food. It's better to assume that you got one there to eat, because otherwise it'll get away from you. So we automatically, when we're in survival mode and functioning from our amygdala, our subcortical brain, tend to skew with false positives, subjective biases. And we tend to become highly impulsive from the food and instinctual from the predator. When we do that, we distort our reality. And anytime we infatuate and seek something or resent and try to avoid something, it occupies space and time in our mind and distracts us from being present. But the second we set a goal that's aligned with what's really highest on our value, our real mission, and we're embracing both the support and the challenge equally, and we're more objective, not skewed in our perspective, we don't distort reality, we become present with it. When we do, we tend to not be distracted, less distracted by impulses and instincts and infatuations, resentments, and things on the news that we put on pedestals or pits. So the sensationalism in the news is designed to sell what stimulates you and grabs your attention. That's why I don't, the only time I watch TV is usually when I'm on it.
Love that. That's a great life rule.
Yeah. So I'm not interested in letting the world on the outside distract me from the calling on the inside. I'm interested in asking myself, what's truly the highest priority action, the one thing I can do right now that makes the biggest difference right now. Then a very important component is reflective awareness, which is one of the highest levels of awareness of consciousness. And that is, if I do get distracted by something and I am infatuated or resentful, if I'm infatuated, it's because I'm assuming that whatever I see in them, I'm too humble to admit I have. Or if I'm resentful, it's because I'm assuming that what I see in them, I'm too proud to admit I have. So our humbleness or pride are not who we are. They're inauthentic, skewed views of ourselves. We minimize or exaggerate ourselves. But if we go in there and identify what we see in others inside ourselves and have reflective awareness, where and when do we demonstrate these behaviors, we'll discover that there's nothing on the outside that we don't have. We have it in our own unique expression according to our values. And what that does is it calms down the infatuation, resentment, allows us to not be distracted, allows us to realize that whatever they have, we have. We're both heroes and villains, saints and sinners, and virtuous and vices. And then we end up moving forward and not being distracted by illusions of sensation.
And the reason why that's so valuable, I wrote down releasing emotional charge, because when we get centered, we release the emotional charge on both ends. And
exactly.
what I've witnessed in myself and a lot of other people as well is that the biggest obstacle many times to long-term growth and results and transformation, whatever we want to call it, is imbalanced emotions.
That's it.
That take us out of right here.
Anything that you're attracted to or repelled from adds to stress. See, stress is got two forms, and only two forms. Every stress that any human being is ever going to face only boils down to two things: the perception of loss of that which they seek, and the perception of gain of that which they try to avoid. So let's say if you're wanting to make money and you all of a sudden have an opportunity and it's taken away from you, you fear the loss of the income. Or if you have bills coming at you and you don't want them, you fear them coming towards you. When it comes to relationships, same thing. If we're infatuated with somebody, we fear their loss. If we resent somebody, we fear their gain. Every stress boils down to those two things: an amygdala desire for and amygdala desire away. The Buddha says the desire for that which is unavailable and the desire to avoid that which is unavoidable is a source of human suffering. So we create stress by having lopsided, emotionally baggaged perceptions instead of balancing our perceptions with reflective awareness. And there's a science to that, and there's the quality of our life based on the quality of the questions we ask. And if we ask questions that balance our mind, we transcend those distractions and are able to stay inspired and focused. But that takes focusing on what's priority, defining what's priority, and zeroing and filling your day. When you have a full day of high priority actions, like I have this interview, and I've got another interview, and I've got the ABC interview, I've got another podcast, and I've got consults, then I've got another interview, then I've got a meeting, and then I have a dinner, and then I have a talk tonight. My day gets full every day. I keep a schedule every single day,
there
7 days, the way I have set it.
Yes.
And as a result of it, I get a lot done, and I don't have time. When you have a full day that's highly inspired, it's easy to say no to distractions. If you don't have anything on your plate, the people on the outside will get in, and the distractions will get in.
Yeah, and that's when, I believe I was reading, talk a lot about focus and procrastination here, and I believe the average American, traditional employee is productive for 2.1 hours a day out of 8 hours. So most of their time is spent in distraction.
My wife, who passed away about 15 years ago, Athena, was with John Singleton, who is the movie producer, and they were chatting, and we had a conversation. I was on a phone with them. They were in Sydney chatting. And John said something very pertinent. If you want to be a high-achieving person, try truly focusing for 8 hours a day and watch what happens. Like you say, because most people do too. I think realistically, I'll do 16 to 18 on a day. That's a typical day for me. So you can get a hell of a lot done if you fill your day with very inspiring things. I don't want to waste time. I delegate everything. I make sure I only fill my day with the things that are most inspiring to me, which is teaching and doing interviews and doing what I love and researching. So you got to be honest about what's really important, and you have to be willing to go out and do that, and do it in a way that serves people, that earns an income, that makes a difference in people's lives, so you can then have the income to delegate everything else off your plate. Because if you're not delegating, you can't live an inspired life because you're doing too many low priority stuff.
It's so true. And when you look at that calendar, because it's aligned with your values and you're clear on your mission, I'm sure you look at that with excitement, and you get to the end of your day and you say, this was a fulfilled, purposeful, powerful day.
That's it. When you can't wait to get up in the morning and be of service to people, people can't wait to get your service. And that's how you grow momentum building achievements around the world.
And I noticed with a lot of younger entrepreneurs, not necessarily young in age, but young in experience as entrepreneurs, they have this illusion that free, ample time equates to freedom. That an open calendar is the dream of being an entrepreneur. And for me, I actually don't want an open calendar. I want a calendar like yours that has all of my priorities, all of my personal routines, knowledge, learning, podcasting, all of the things that are going to move me forward, because open space means, just like you said, an email is going to come in, an invoice that I didn't expect is going to come in, somebody's going to chat me up for an hour when I didn't expect it, and it's going to lead me astray. Well,
I here's my observation. Wealth, well-being, whole being, economic development and independence is a worthy thing, as Hubert Hal Bancroft says in his Book of Wealth. But many people pursue wealth without doing something with meaning. Wealth without meaning usually leads to debauchery and unfulfillment. But wealth with meaning leads to incredible legacies. You take an example. There was a gentleman that owned a major magazine system in the States. He had 3 major tabloid magazines, made about $75 million on an average a year. But the problem was that he drank about 18 drinks every dinner, every lunch. And his life was basically dissociated because there was no meaning in his life. It made money without meaning. But people like Bill Gates or Branson or somebody or Elon Musk, they're making money doing something that's extremely meaningful to them. And they'll put in a long, full day doing something that they love to do. And my observation is that out of the people I've seen that do something that's meaningful, that's, as Aristotle said, eudaimonia instead of hedonism, they're the ones that will build momentum, leave legacies, and make contributions to the world that are unprecedented. So to me, filling your day with things that are extremely high priority and most meaningful to you. Can I share something that will really help whoever's listening?
Absolutely, yes.
If a person will make a list of everything they do in a day and divide it up into professional and personal, but everything, every action, not things like marketing, but all the sub-actions you do inside that, management, all the sub-actions, everything you do in a day, make a list of it, a long, extensive list. Next to that list in another column of 6 columns, the next column is how much does it produce per hour? What does it actually generate per hour? And it's wise to know what that is, because you may be busy doing low priority things without knowing it.
Yes.
The third column is how much meaning does it have on a 1 to 10 scale? Is this extremely meaningful at a 10, or is it down to 1? And go through and reassign a value to that. Next column is what does it cost to delegate that? If you were to go and have somebody to do that to the same standard of you doing it, what would it cost to do that? And you want to prioritize it according to cost and spreads. The spreads between the cost versus what is it produced. Because you're looking for spreads to extract economic value out of, surplus labor value out of somebody else's help. The next one is how much time do you actually spend on it? The actual number of minutes or hours in a day, and extrapolate it down to an hour. So if you spend 2 hours, or if it's a half hour, you multiply it times 2 or you divide by 2. And then the last thing you do is the final prioritization, factoring in what it produces the most, what's most meaningful, and has the biggest spread. If you go in there and do that and pre-prioritize your life accordingly, if you will go and really do that exercise, it will mind blow you, because you've been realizing you've probably been minoring in majors and majoring in minors and wondering why you're not having the fullest energy, the fullest of productivity, the fullest economic rewards, and the most meaning. But once you do that exercise, it can change your overall momentum. I started doing that at age 28, and my business went tenfold in 15 months by doing that exercise.
That's so powerful. And Academy Nation, I invite you, because I am going to deep dive into that. I've done something similar with one of your programs, and I'm going to deep dive into that again, because that's how we get clarity on the needle movers. And I remember working with a client about a year ago, Dr. Demartini, and he came to me, and he was burned out in his business. And we actually went through something somewhat similar to that, and we noticed that only 15% of his time was he doing the things that gave him purpose, that were leveraged, that were high leverage. Only 15%. Exactly. Everything else was bureaucratic paperwork and invoicing and all this stuff that was low hourly wage that was just eating him alive. Exactly.
Anytime you're doing something, say, with the hierarchy of values that each individual has, anytime you're doing something that's highest in value, your self-worth goes up. Anytime you do things that are lower on the value list, your values go down. Your self-worth goes down. And your economics go up and down. So if you don't fill your day with high priority actions, don't expect to have the great momentum. And there's nothing more frustrating than to be doing something that you feel is not really producing. If you can hire somebody at $25 or $30 an hour or $50 an hour, or $100 an hour, or even $500 an hour to do something that can make you $5,000 an hour, it's like a no-brainer. You need to be focusing on the thing that produces the most and let them do things that don't. I delegate everything. I jokingly say, I even delegate lovemaking to my girlfriend to make sure she gets the best possible lovemaker.
It's a great setup.
when I tell her, look, honey, I know I'm not adequate enough, but I brought in Hugh Jackman to take care of the lovemaking today. She'll even say, I love Hugh, honey. I'm joking
classic.
about it.
That's classic. No, and it's, I know, and so when was the last time you cooked yourself a meal?
I was age 24. 24 was the last time I cooked. I haven't driven in 30 years. And let's see, October will be 30 years since I've driven, and it's been 40 years plus since I've cooked. I learned a long time ago when I was 28 years old and I started to delegate. I got rid of anything that wasn't inspiring to me, and I did the same thing. I made a video of what I'd said to my clients. I made a video of what I did in a day. I looked at what was going on, and anything that wasn't the highest, most inspiring, and everything else, I delegated away. That was a very, very important turning point in my life.
We'll be right back with that amazing conversation, but I had a couple simple questions for you. Do you ever feel like there's never enough time in your day? Do you ever feel like you're overwhelmed and you have all of these ideas but never see them come to life? Do you ever lack consistency because you're trying to spin so many plates at once and you're doing busy work but you don't know if it's moving the needle? Listen, I've been exactly where you've been. And that's why I created my brand new course, the 7 to 12 Formula, how to create 1 week's, yes, I said 1 week's worth of results before noon in 1 5-hour block. That's it. Listen, most people's productivity is abysmal. And the reason is we don't focus on it as a skill. We're never taught about it. And in a digital age, it's even more crucial. So I get asked all the time, Tommy, how are you so disciplined? How are you so focused? And the truth is I'm not special. I committed to learning these skills over the last few years, and it has exponentially grown my business and myself. And I put it together in a course for you that you can get through in a few hours, but that's going to give you a system. So whether you have 5 hours a week to work on a side hustle, or you're a full-time creator and entrepreneur, you can maximize your time. Even if you work for somebody else, you can blow past your competition. So as my thank you for being on the Academy, I'm going to give you $50 off. The coupon is LAUNCH50 for $50 off. All you have to do is go to 7to12formula.com. That's 7to12formula.com to make sure that procrastination is not part of your plan going forward and you accomplish more growth, more momentum than you have in a very, very long time. It's amazing because we have a certain amount of bandwidth and capacity. And, I always tell people in 12 months, in 36 months, even if you're new in an industry, you can start going towards expertise if you use your time wisely, if you're willing to delegate. Now, here's what people are going to say, Dr. Demartini, because they tell me the same thing. I don't have enough money to do that yet. So what would you say to something like that?
Oh, I love that question. I get that every week. First of all, it does not cost money to delegate. It costs money to delegate unwisely.
Ooh.
So please note this. If you hire somebody that is not having highest on their values, the thing you're delegating, and you've selected poorly that person, unwisely, that person who's not inspired to do it, and you got to push them uphill to get them to do it, it's not high in their values, and you're going to end up having to micromanage them and distract yourself from doing what's high on yours.
Yes.
And if you then don't go out and do what's highest on yours to produce, then of course delegation is going to cost. But delegation doesn't cost if you hire people that are inspired and love and are greater at doing what you want to delegate than even you, and that's their dream. And your dream is to get on with doing what's most important to you, and that produces more income. There's no way it's going to cost. It's going to make money. So it's about how you do it. It's not the idea of delegation. It's the mastery of delegation, proper delegation.
It's so
true.
You're
helping the economy. You help the economy every time you delegate. More jobs, more opportunities, help to develop the economy. But all I know is that I went from one individual in my office to 12 staff members and 5 doctors in 15 months. And my business literally went tenfold. So delegation was one of the greatest things that helped me. I mean, I full-time travel around the world. This is what I love doing. Not everybody else goes, why would you want to do that? That's crazy. I live on a ship that goes around the world, or I fly around the world. That's what I love. I've always felt that Earth was home for me. I couldn't imagine myself in one little spot too long.
I love that. Okay, so and I completely agree. It's the when people say I don't have enough money to do it, I always say that's the reason you don't have enough money is because of your lack of actually delegating. That's exactly what's happening there.
And prioritizing.
Yes.
Because if they don't prioritize to make the income, and they don't even look at what's really priority, then they're not serving. Many people, many entrepreneurs, with pride and a bit of arrogance, assume they know what the world wants, instead of actually going and caring enough to find out what the world is actually searching for. And so what they do is they're pushing uphill their marketing to try to get people to buy something without a demand. And therefore they don't have the income, and then they feel trapped doing low priority stuff. And so you have to care enough about other people. That's one of the responsibilities if you're going to do something and live by high values. You want to find the thing that's high in your value that also serves and overlaps a great need in the world. When those two match, you found your niche and you can delegate and you can be freed.
It's so true. I know there's been several instances in the past when I created a product or a course or some type of experience, and it was exciting to me because it's what I wanted, but then I put it out into the marketplace and it completely flopped. And when I went into the trenches and I actually did the real research, spoke to people, had immersive conversations, and then created something around their specific responses, their specific needs and desires, then it did really well. And so you're right. It's so easy to get caught up in something that we desire, something that we want, but not our actual clients, potential customers.
There's a concept called equanimity and equity, and there's a theory called equity theory. If we go out in the market and we puff ourselves up and we think we're right with our values and project our values onto the customer and to the employee, the customer lets us know and humbles us by not buying, and the employees let us know because they feel autocratically told what to do and need to be pushed uphill because they're not feeling their values are met. So productivity goes down and sales go down. And it humbles us back into authentic self. If we minimize ourselves, we'll tend to exaggerate other people and our employees. We'll have chaos in our company and we'll sacrifice our profits trying to give away our business to get people. And that eventually makes us angry and frustrated to be able to put order in our company and actually value ourselves. So nature forces us and creates symptoms in our business to get us authentic. And authentic only occurs when our highest value. So believe it or not, everything that goes on in our business is trying to get us to our highest value. I know that sounds very simple, but it is the most profound realization in business management in 36 years of consulting, that every single thing is trying to get us to the center of authenticity and objectivity, to try to get us where we're not exaggerating or minimizing ourselves into a state of equanimity. Equity theory is trying to get us into a state of equanimity because that's where we feel the most fulfilled, and that's where we feel that we've made the biggest difference, and that is the mean between the polarities, which is what meaning really means.
Okay, that was really powerful. I know you repeated it twice, but can you repeat that one more time about the feedback and the symptoms trying to get us back into alignment, or however you said it?
So in all 7 areas of our life, in our mind, our intuition is trying to give us feedback. If we infatuate with something, our intuition is trying to show us the downside. If we're resentful to something, intuition is trying to point us the upside. So we have a feedback to try to get us into the center with our mind. In our business, if we get arrogant or humble, shamed or pride, in other words, pride or shame, we get feedback from our business to get us back into authenticity. The same with our money. If we start getting elated and cocky and we start to think we know things and exaggerate ourselves with mania, we eventually overextend ourselves, borrow too much money and extend it and then crash. And if we go the other direction in fear, we hold back for opportunities that are at the bottom that we could be buying. All the symptoms in every area of our life, even physiologically, if our autonomic nervous system is creating symptoms to get us authentic and centered again, balanced, everything is trying to get us authentic and centered and back into our, what I call the highest value, where we're most objective, which means objectivity means balance. So when we do that, nature's trying to get us to our most empowered state. I really believe that there's everything that goes on in our life is on the way, not in the way. It's just misinterpreted. And the reason being is we go after fantasies, and when things don't match our fantasies, we think there's a mistake instead of a feedback to guide us back into a refined objective.
That is huge. Guys, replay that one. Go back 90 seconds, 2 minutes, replay that a few times, because that's what Dr. Demartini just shared. That is absolutely fundamentally going to shift your life and business. I know I'm going to go back through that over and over. What question would you ask in that instance to open up the curiosity? Because if there's feedback or some symptom that's up and down, instead of being emotionally triggered by it, what would be an example of a question that you would ask or that somebody could ask to see that, to invite the curiosity and to get to use it as something powerful?
Well, 36 years ago, I had a fun time, and you may or may not relate to this. Hopefully somebody out there will relate to this. I would have a day in my practice where I would be, kind of puffed up. You know, I really served a lot of people, made some income, a lot of thank yous and things like that. And I'd just go, man, I'm amazing. And I'd puff myself up into pride. And then I would go home and be cocky and be thinking about myself. That's the problem with pride. You're thinking about yourself and not thinking about your mission and the service to other people. And you get into a narcissistic mode, how great you are. I'd be so great that I'd grab somebody's hand and touch me, and they go, see, now you even feel better about yourself. That kind of a delusion. And then I would notice that my spouse, when I would come home, for some reason knew, like a quantum entanglement, knew and would then humble me. You forgot this, you didn't do this. And she would neutralize whatever the puff up during the day. All these people that were thanking me during the day, she would neutralize it. At first I thought she was toxic, but I realized that I was cocky and she was bringing me back into balance. And then what would happen is I'd have a funky day, I'd have an argument with her when I'd come home. We'd have a thing, I wouldn't sleep very well. I'd come in the next day, I would have kind of a down day, and then people would cancel and people would be bitching and, expecting things. And I would just go, I would be angry with my staff and angry with my clients and, stinking thinking, ingratitude, attitude, pity party, hold drum, digital craniorectalitis syndrome, I called it. You have your thumb up your butt and your butt up your head, head up your butt. So what happens is I would then have this down day, and then I would notice that when I would come home that day, she'd lift me up. And I was thinking, this is interesting. When I'm really up, she brings me down. When I'm really down, she's bringing me up. I finally realized that if I don't govern myself and bring myself to the center, the world around me has to. That's a very important principle. Anybody who can't govern themselves from within as a master has to be governed from without as a slave. And so I decided that instead of going home puffed up, I would stand at the edge of my window. I'm up on the 52nd floor of a building, so I look out 700 feet below. I can look down onto the city. And I look at the sunset, and I would ask myself, what staff member did I not thank today? What procedure did I overlook? What paperwork did I not complete? What patient did I not acknowledge? What did I not study? What did I would ask myself humbling questions to bring my puff and my arrogance and my pride back in equilibrium. And I wouldn't stop until I would get a tear of gratitude for the opportunity to serve people. That was a very, very powerful exercise. And I would sit there for 5-10 minutes and do that exercise until I would watch the sunset with a tear in my eye. When I would go home, I had this amazing, quantumly entangled, loving relationship at home that was different. I was going, wow, I just learned something here. Then I would go, and if I had a down day, I found out that I would ask, what did I do? What did I accomplish? Who did I serve? Who did I thank? And make myself see the other side. Because when you're infatuated with yourself, you're blind to the downside. When you're resentful to yourself, you're blind to the upside. So instead of being blind, I would ask questions, because the quality of our life is based on the quality of the questions we ask. I would ask questions that make me conscious of the unconscious. What my intuition's attempting to do to balance me, I'm making myself do the questions that waken up my intuition. And I would center myself and not leave until I had a tear of gratitude. I would lift myself if I was down, I'd pull myself down, and I governed myself. I had governmentus, one who can govern their own mind. And in the process of this governmentus, the stability of my business was astonishingly different. My trajectory was now more consistent. It didn't have these extreme wobbles. And my spouse at home was different. My confidence was more stable. My income was more stable. Almost every area of my life was more regulated because I took the time to not allow my impulses and instincts to run my life, my animal, and let my angel, you might say, guide me by going back into the center of the heart with love. And that was enlightening to have that mastery. And that was 36 years I've been aware of that, and it's made a difference in my life.
Wow, that's incredible, because that what you're talking about, that internal self, and that's just that emotional intelligence, emotional resilience, emotional mastery, and rebalancing everything out. And I think your stress levels have changed. When you have a balanced mind and you're not infatuated, you don't fear the loss of things. So your mind's not run by stressful fear. When you're resentful to things, you fear its gain. But if you're now neutral and you have an objective state, you don't have the fear of gain and loss. You have amazing resilience, amazing adaptability, and you're not distracted, because that's what occupies space and time in your mind, all those polarizations. So when you're synthesized and balanced, you're freed and you're creative, and that's where you're objective, and that's where you are willing to tackle challenges that inspire you. And you come up with creative ideas, and then you set your priorities. Before you go home, you set your priorities for the next day. It's all done. So when you get there, you live by priority. Amazing things get done when you do that. And you said free, and that's exactly what I was thinking, that this practice gives us freedom, emotional freedom, which opens up our capacity, opens up our bandwidth to focus on the things that actually matter, not on all of the stuff that doesn't matter.
And look forward to challenges. Challenges are not things to shrink from, they're things to shine through.
That mindset is everything. You see them as an opportunity. You've mentioned priority time and time again. I know you have the master planning, which is an incredible course that I've done twice now. That's a January course where you plan really your whole life and the whole year and decades in advance. Do you have a weekly practice, Dr. John Demartini, where you maybe on a Sunday you get clear about what's coming on in the week, or monthly or quarterly? How do you break that master plan down on a practical basis that somebody out there in the audience could use?
I do it every day.
Every day.
I have a 4,800 page document that's 24 volumes or files on my computer. And I go from the beginning of it and I read through it and edit any updates and things and put in new metrics and just keep going through that document and update my daily gratitudes and daily achievements. Everything that I get to do. I typed in here that I had the opportunity to do this podcast interview with you just a few minutes ago before we started. So I document what I get to do every day and keep a metric of all the things I do, and then go back to the goals that I've had. And every time I achieve a new radio, a new television, new podcast, new seminar, new speaking gig, new book, new movie, whatever I do, meeting new people, meeting new prime ministers or whoever I get to do, I document all those because those were goals that I've had, and I bring in and I metric the goals on a daily basis. And then I write them and document that I had the gratitude to do that. And I update my posthumous biography of how I want to be perceived after I pass, and all the goals as I go. So this is an ongoing daily ritual that I've been doing for a long, long time.
So it's not just on December 31st. It's not No.
I do it daily. Now, that doesn't mean that at the end of the year, usually when I'm on my ship, wherever I'm sailing around the world, I will then do a overview on the areas and take a look and look for the year. Is there anything specific that I know I want to create on that, and map out how many programs I want to do and things of this nature. But I do this every day. This is a daily ritual. I don't wait for it periodically. It's just like anything else. If you pay your taxes once a year, you're probably going to have penalties and cost, and you're probably going to have a hard time paying it. If you pay it quarterly, it's a lot easier. If you pay it monthly, it's even easier. If you pay it weekly, it's no brainer. If you pay it daily, you don't think about it. You just set it aside and do it. It just becomes part of your rituals. So it's better to do daily routines than it is to have to wait and make a periodic activity.
It's so true, and I've seen that document, and it looks like it weighs about 15 pounds, but it's incredible. It's incredible, and the power of the daily reflection is that you're consistently being brought back to center with your mission. You're reflecting on the day, on the week, you're always top of mind. So it ties beautifully into everything that we've been talking about, because there's no more space for distractions to come in, or taking some time off. Or you and I know that people have down days, down weeks, down months, up, down roller coasters. And by keeping it top of mind, you ground yourself and you center yourself in your purpose and your mission every single day.
Well, today will be the 204th presentation I've done this year. So I'll give you an idea of the number of presentations. 204th. And I've done over 500 interviews, radio, television, newspaper, magazines, podcasts, everything already this year. So I fill my day with the things that are most inspiring to me based on the mission that I set out when I was 17. And I find that if I do that, life gets to be what you want. If I decide that I want to go and work on a book, then I structure it into the thing and I organize the book. If I want to we're working on a new movie right now, so I structure the time to do the movie. But whatever is highest on priority, I just keep asking, what is the highest priority thing I can do today that can help me fulfill my mission on planet Earth? And just make sure that stays at the top. Keep currently looking at that. And you stick to high priority. No human being can do anything more than live by priority. So they might as well just stick to that. Gary Keller wrote The One Thing. It's a company I get to work and speak to.
Love that.
The One Thing. It's a great little book. What is the one thing that you want to be known for? What is the one thing that is the daily action that gives you the greatest power? If you stick to that, you build amazing things from it.
Yeah, that's one we give out a lot, and the reason is because one of the things that I love about that is he has the success list. Typically people have to-do lists and there's 15 things on there, and he says, hey, what are the 1, 2, or maybe 3 daily actions from that to-do list that actually is going to create success and leverage, and do that and focus on that.
Mine's research, write, travel, teach.
Exactly. No cooking in there.
No,
so
I don't.
We can't expect a good meal from you.
You don't want to have me cook. My wife was also not much of a cook. I think she cooked twice in the time we were together in 14 years before she passed away. But what's interesting is we had her cook one time, and she ended up breaking this $400 plate. And it took her like 3 hours plus all the shopping time and everything else to do it. And I said, this is insane. I looked at it and said, we could have written a book together in this time. We could have traveled and climbed Mount Everest in this time. And I said, please don't do this again. She said, good. It worked. I did a terrible job, and you'll never ask me again. I have no desire to cook. I have no desire to do anything. I'd rather go to Alan Wong in Hawaii, who's one of the greatest cooks in the world, and I'd rather go and have a cuisine at his place. I'd rather go find somebody whose absolute life is creating masterpieces of cuisine and go experience that. So I'd much rather do that or something simple. Sometimes I just like a good salad or some fruit.
Exactly.
I don't need a lot. I'm not into rich. I don't drink wine. I'm a water guy. I just drink water.
No, and I've seen that firsthand at an event called Prophecy. It's 7 days. I think we started at 7 or 8 in the morning, and we finished some days at midnight or past midnight. And you had the same energy and the same clarity at the start that you had at the finish. And I believe we took one lunch break. That's it. So you're living it. You're living it.
I delegate breaks to other people.
That's awesome. Well, Dr. Demartini, it has been an absolute pleasure. A couple things. The values for the Academy, he's been talking a lot about the values and identifying your values. If you haven't done this already, go right now to drdemartini.com. That's Dr. DEMARTINI.com and take the values test, because this is going to help you get radically clear. You get a report. It's really awesome. I have my clients do it. So make sure you do that. There's also a couple events coming up. There's a breakthrough experience in Las Vegas, Nevada at the end of this month. And that would be August going into September. Anything else that you can share with the audience?
Well, certainly I love helping people, and I'd love to help them get clear on what their mission is, what they want to do, and prioritize it. That's what the breakthrough experience is for. The breakthrough experience is a program I've done 1,080 times now.
Wow.
And done it for over 30 years, 63 countries. It's something I love doing every week. And it helps people break through whatever they perceive in the way to help them see life on the way. And it's very powerful. But if they fill their day with high priority actions, it changes their life. So you want to give yourself permission, whoever's listening, give yourself permission to do something extraordinary on planet Earth. The true you is already extraordinary. But the second you filter yourself out and try to filter everybody else in, you'll lose the true you, and the extraordinary will become ordinary. So don't let the world on the outside. I said on the movie The Secret many years ago, when the voice and the vision on the inside is louder and more profound than all opinions on the outside, you've begun to master your life. Stick to the priorities.
Dr. Demartini, thank you for your passion, your wisdom, and your commitment to your values. Because of that, you've been able to inspire so many others to do the same, including myself and countless others.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity to share a bit.
Deep appreciation. Wow, another awesome Resist Average Academy podcast. Thank you so much for being here. And it's Tommy, and I just wanted to say thank you. I know you have endless opportunities and endless choices when it comes to podcasts. And the fact that you chose the Academy tells me everything I need to know about who you are and what you're committed to creating in your life. If this resonated, I ask you take 60 to 90 seconds, go to iTunes on desktop or mobile, search the Resist Average Academy podcast, leave us a 5-star review. We are working hard to increase our exposure, and this is the #1 way that you can support the mission. So head over to iTunes now, take the 60 seconds, tag a friend when you resonate and connect with an episode. It would mean the world. I want to thank you for being on board on the Academy.